Alex turned off his phone and lay in the bed. He stared at the wall but wasn't looking at it. He was thinking about Kathy's scene just now. I was with Kathy for a year, and yet she linked our relationship to helping a poor classmate? Her words are like a sword piercing my heart. Alex smiled bitterly to himself. Kathy liked money. How would she feel if she knew how rich I was? The next morning, Alex and his roommates returned to their dorm after class. They just finished eating their takeout and were preparing to relax for a while when Joe walked in. He looked depressed as he entered the room and said, "Something's happened." "What's happened? What's our sports department done this time?" Ben asked as he sipped water from his glass. "Something's happened to Rose." Joe sat down and looked at the other three. He was worried. "What's going on?" Alex knew from Joe's face that it was something bad. "You know Rose slapped a guy when she left yesterday? Do you know who that man was?" Joe answered his question. "It was Luciel Brennan, the deputy manager of the Trader Joe's group." "Holy shit! The Trader Joe's group?" Ben exclaimed. He was shocked. He stood up and said loudly, "The Trader Joe's group ranks in the top 10 in New York City, right? There were Trader Joe's retail offices on the streets that belonged to them, and this was one of the only businesses that belonged to their group." "Rose is done at this time. Why did she hit him? She's definitely in trouble now." Alex glanced at Ben, who was still talking nonstop. Then Alex looked at Joe and asked, "Doesn't Rose also come from a powerful family? Isn't there anything they can do?" Alex knew that Rose's family was rich enough to open an account at the First Republic Bank, so they must be powerful. "Rose's family owns a company called Seafox Cargo Company, but it doesn't compare to the Trader Joe's Corporation," Joe said with a frown. "Susan told me that Rose's company had bad news today. Rose's dad is really worried about several partnerships that are threatening to cancel." Joe crossed his arms. "The Trader Joe's group must have done this. I've seen information about them on the internet. The boss of the group, Donald Brennan, is Lucille's father, and he's bad news. He's very ruthless in his business dealings." Carl looked at Ben, then looked at Alex. His face was grave. Just then, Joe's phone rang. It was his girlfriend, Susan. Joe answered the phone nervously. "All right, I'll go right now. Okay, that's it. Bye then." Joe hung up the phone. Rose got a call from her dad. He's told her she has to fix it. He said the only way to resolve it is for her to spend one night with Lucille. Otherwise, Donald is going to ruin their family. Yesterday, I caught that lowlife Lucille looking weirdly at Rose. I think it'll cost her a lot to make it up to him. Damn it, this father and son are bloody shameless, Ben cursed angrily. Joe and the others also understood what it would mean for Rose to have to make it up to Luciel Brennan. "Don't say any more. Let's go to Susan's dorm now and help Rose come up with some ideas." Joe stood up quickly. All four hurried outside and locked the door behind them. After checking with the dorm front desk worker, Joe led Alex and the others quickly to the third floor and pushed open the door of the dorm room that Rose shared with her friends. Although Rose and the others dressed well, the dorm room was run down. The blankets covering Susan's bed appeared to be of good quality, but the other three beds looked very disheveled. Susan, Stacy, and Betty sat beside Rose looking anxious. Rose sobbed and hugged her legs as she sat on the bed. "How is she?" Joe asked Susan as he entered the room. Susan stood up and dragged Joe and the others to the door. She turned around and looked at Rose with concern, then lowered her eyes and whispered to them. "Rose's dad knows that she's the one that caused this trouble, and he shouted at her over the phone. She's been crying for almost 3 hours now, and her dad told her that if she can't sort things out, she'll be in a lot of trouble. Damn, what kind of father is he?" Ben couldn't help but feel disgusted. "I guess he's in a tight spot," Susan responded. "After all, 7 or 8 of his business partners are threatening to cancel their contracts. Anyone who hasn't threatened yet still might. Her dad called me in secret and asked me to take care of Rose. He's looking for ways to resolve this situation." With that, Susan urged Joe and the others to Rose's side. Rose, don't cry. If Donald's family goes too far, we'll call the police to arrest them. Joe frowned as he tried to comfort her. Ben took out his phone and said forcefully, "Let's call the police now. I'll call 911. Don't, Rose cried. Only then did she look up. Her face had been buried in her knees. Her watery eyes were red from crying, and she'd lost all traces of the arrogance that had been so evident the previous day. After all, Ben and the others were trying to help her. She wiped her nose with the tissue that Betty handed to her. With tears in her eyes, she said, "It's useless to call the police. It will only make things worse." Rose was, after all, the child of a rich family. She had seen and heard some of the methods her father and the other bosses used to deal with such matters. The police might anger Donald Brennan. If he was completely enraged, with his strength and power, the situation could get 100 times worse than it was now. "We need to find someone else to help," Ben said. "If we can find someone even more powerful, they might be able to sort it out. I'll call my dad and ask him." He stood up, took out his phone, and went to one side to make a call. "I'll ask too." Susan, Stacy, and Betty all answered. However, they all knew in their hearts that with their family's connections, there was no way they could stop Donald, the boss of the Trader Joe's group. Alex spoke for the first time. "Don't worry. It'll all be sorted out soon." Hearing Alex's voice, Rose was slightly stunned. She stopped wiping her nose and raised her head. She shot a cold gaze toward Alex. "You came too," she said. Alex nodded slightly, but didn't say anything. Judging by Rose's expression, she didn't seem to want him there. Susan quickly spoke up for Alex. "Rose, Alex came to help you think of a way out of this. He's worried about you." "Worried," Rose sneered. "If it wasn't for you yesterday, we wouldn't have bumped into Luciel. And if we hadn't bumped into Luciel, the incident would have never happened," she exclaimed. Then she pointed at the door and shouted, "Scram! Get out of my room right now!" "Rose, listen to yourself," Susan said. She felt that Rose was being unfair. "After all, Alex came to help you, and you speak to him like that?" Alex didn't say anything. He slowly turned around and walked toward the door. Joe hung up the phone and followed to comfort his friend. "Alex, are you all right?" he asked. "Rose was out of order just now, but remember how stressed she is today. Don't lower yourself to her level. Forgive her." "I know, it's fine." Alex smiled faintly. "All right, go quickly and persuade her. Tell her not to worry. It'll be fine." Alex walked out as if nothing had happened. Joe watched Alex go and shook his head before returning quickly to the dorm. "I don't ever want to see that lowlife again." Rose was still cursing Alex. When she saw Joe come in, she stopped and took out her cell phone. "I just had an idea. I'm going to call my old school friend to see if he can help." "Hello, Zane, it's Rose." Rose began to tell Zane about her situation. The others in the dorm also contacted anyone they could think of who might be able to help them. "Hey, Uncle Chuck, it's me, Stacy. Can you do me a favor? My roommate and Donald Brennan from the Trader Joe's group." "What? You can't afford to offend him?" "No, you should at least try to talk to him." "Oh, okay, I'll look for someone else. Goodbye, Uncle Chuck." "Hey, Aunt Ruth, can you help me with something?" Alex walked out of the girls' dormitory, took a breath of fresh air, and took out his phone. From memory, he pressed a number and put the phone to his ear. He heard the phone ring 3 times before an elderly voice answered. "Sir, you finally called. You've been suffering and away from home for so many years, and I've been feeling guilty and powerless to help." "Mark, you're being too hard on yourself," Alex replied. After 7 years, Alex's heart swelled with emotion to hear the voice of his family's butler. "My poverty training is over. I can use the family's influence now, right?" "Of course. Starting from the day before yesterday, the family's already lifted all restrictions on you," Mark replied happily. "Yes, I want to confront Donald Brennan of the Trader Joe's group." Alex got straight to the point. "Trader Joe's group, Trader Joe's group. Mark mumbled to himself twice. Forgive this old servant for being slow-witted, but where does this group of Trader Joe's come from? It's one of New York's local businesses, Alex explained. Alex's family influences the world. Trader Joe's group was one of the top 10 enterprises in New York, but it wasn't that grand from a global perspective. Trader Joe's, Mark exclaimed. Of course, it falls under our family's East Coast Division of Management. I'll inform Ken, manager of the East Coast Division. Sir, what are you going to confront? Tell him to stop all actions against the Seafox Cargo Company, Alex said lightly. Okay, don't worry, sir. Within half an hour, no matter what dealings Donald has with the Seafox Cargo, he'll stop, Mark said with a faint smile. Good. Alex then hung up. After receiving Alex's order, Mark immediately made sure that the message got to Ken, manager of the East Coast Division. By this time, the father of Zane, the high school classmate that Rose had called, had agreed to his son's request and rushed over to New York City to resolve the issue. He was a junior high school classmate of the union's president, William Chase. If William agreed to help, he could resolve this matter. At this time, William was in the union building, negotiating with an investment company. Both sides had 10 members, and the deal involved a total amount of $125 million. The negotiation had reached its most critical moment. They all felt that they could reach an agreement within 10 minutes, which would result in William's company receiving an investment of $125 million. At this critical moment, the door of the meeting room was pushed open, and William's secretary walked in. William frowned. The others also looked annoyed. It was considered very rude for the secretary to interrupt negotiations. However, the secretary approached William and whispered a few words into his ear. William's expression changed noticeably, and he stood up, clearly deep in thought. He said to the others, "Everyone, I'm sorry, but I have some urgent matters to take care of right now. We'll talk about this meeting later today. Please forgive me." Then he nodded his head, turned around, and walked toward the door. "Mr. Chase, if you leave now, I don't think we'll need to continue our discussion because I will lose all faith in you," the most important representative of the investment company said to William. He was livid. "If that's the case, I'm sorry." William turned around, said something to his secretary, and quickly walked out. His secretary had just informed him that Ken Stokes was about to call him to solve the problem between the Trader Joe's group and the Seafox Cargo Company. To him, Ken's words were much more important than $125 million. The business talks have collapsed, he thought, but we can discuss business another time. However, if I've upset Ken, it won't just be a simple matter of losing some money. I could lose my position as the president of the union. Ken Stokes was a member of the union, or in its chain, but in the upper echelons of New York society, he was extremely prestigious. William and his secretary rushed out of the building at the same moment that Finn Harrison arrived. "Mr. Chase." Finn walked toward William with a smile. He thought that having been friends since school, William Chase would help him out this time. However, William only glanced at him and then ignored him. He climbed into the car and drove away. Meanwhile, Alex had walked to the side of the campus's Ramsey Lake and sat down on a large rock deep in thought. On the riverbank, he saw a couple snuggling together, and his mind was flooded with happy memories. He thought about a time when he and Kathy had been so happy. He remembered helping her cook and riding together to take their exams. He used the money he had saved to buy cosmetics for Kathy. Alex's train of thought was broken by his phone ringing. He brought his mind back to the present as the name Zara Fitzgerald appeared on the screen. Zara was the captain of the school's cheerleading squad, and Alex was also a member of the squad. The rest of the squad were girls, so they needed someone to move the props around, to lift the stereo, and to go buy the ice cream. They also needed someone to fan them when they were hot. Of course, a boy was needed. Because of this, Alex became the cheerleading team's service assistant. In other words, it was free hard labor.
Hello, Alex. You must come to the West Campus sports field right now.
What is it? Alex asked.
If I tell you to do something, just do it. Cut the crap or you're dead.
Zara hung up the phone. Alex put his phone in his pocket, stood up, and quickly headed toward the West Campus sports field.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.